and the early bird catches the worms. So the people who are here get the opportunity to win a few prizes. So the first question, which I think is a little difficult, but anyways, let's give it a shot. Henry Gantt developed the Gantt chart in 1917. In which project was it first used? No. 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 Okay, let's just say it had nothing to do with any war-related activity. It was more of a construction, real estate. No. I'm sorry? Can you repeat that? No, but you're close. Getting close. Not geographically. I'll repeat the question. Henry Gantt developed the Gantt chart in 1917. In which project was it first used? There you go. Can you stand up, please? Could we have the mic and your name, please? I'm sorry? Hiren Rupani. Okay. So you'll be getting a prize for that answer, but everyone has to wait till the very end. That's when we'll be giving out the prizes. No. He said Hoover Dam. So Jacob has requested me to use clarify the answer. Hoover Dam project, yes, in the United States of America in 1931, after almost 15 years. I think the bell is still ringing outside. We've got people coming in. I hope you all had a chance to go to the eye donation booth outside where you can pledge to donate your eyes. It's all about filling out a single form, nothing else. So please do visit the booth, and let's hope the next generation can be helped by us. Let's take one more question until everyone, and give everyone 2 more minutes to get in. Who was the first cricketer to wear a helmet? I'm sorry? No. No. Yes. No. Yes. No. No. Okay, it was not an Indian. A clue. Yes, who said that? There you go. Please stand up. Could you have your name, please? Sorry? Bhumi Desai. Please, repeat the answer. Could you note down her name? Okay, great. So Graham Yallop. As Australian, he's from Australia and also a captain in 1978. Graham Yallop. Oh, could you please repeat your name, please? Thank you. So I think without further ado, let's start. So on the podium, we have Commodore Shrikant Kesno, who is a serving Indian Navy officer with more than 3 decades of experience in operations, leadership, diplomacy, training, and administration. He is passionate about maritime education and strongly believes that all of us need to further advance our knowledge about the landmark achievements in the maritime domain. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, a big round of applause for Commodore Shrikant Kesno.
Thank you. You can hear me at the back? Lovely. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks a lot for having me here. Great honor to be amongst a bunch of very fine professionals. Ever since I was told that I'm going to be here at this event. I was told by a lot of my friends that you're going to be in a very privileged background. You're going to meet lots of interesting people. And so it seems. Thanks for calling me. Now, please don't get worried about the first slide. I'm not going to talk to you about cricket. But we all recognize this gentleman, right? Non-Navy people, take a clue, see how many of these people you would like to recognize. Anyone? Non-Navy people, right? You're not Navy? Okay. Who do you recognize in these?
The third person is the one who was lost in the Indian Ocean and was discovered.
Okay, but fine. What's his name? Right. Anybody else? Yeah, last one there. Abhilash Tomy. Fine. Now, I guess that's the sum total of these four gentlemen that we are recognizing here. And it's interesting that he's recognized not for his achievements, but as a gentleman who got lost in the Indian Ocean, which is very much true. Now let's take all these four. The guy on the top, against the backdrop of mountains, Satyabrata Dam, Indian Navy officer, former Indian Navy officer, submariner, who has climbed both, who has been to both South and North Pole and climbed the Mount Everest. At one point of time, the only person in the world to have done this. Dived in all the oceans of the world, climbed all the peaks of the world, author, badminton champion, writer on forensics. Okay? The guy below, Abhilash Tomy. Why is Abhilash Tomy famous? To his right, Dilip Donde, the one with the beard, was the first Indian to solo circumnavigate the world in a sailboat. In a sailboat, ladies and gentlemen, that means he didn't use power. He went in a boat all over the world, all by himself. Dilip Donde did it by stopping at various places. The gentleman to his left, Abhilash Tomy, did it without stopping. Non-stop solo circumnavigation. He was Dilip Donde's Shishya. Okay? He attempted to do it a second time and he was leading in the race when he got dismasted in the Indian Ocean. For 4 days, there was no one to reach him till the Indian Navy and the Australian Navy reached him. That's a different story. The gentleman on the right, with the right top corner, with a plane behind, is a hero of just 15 days ago. Few days before the Republic Day, he landed India's landing light combat aircraft, the aircraft developed by HAL, on the Indian Navy's aircraft carrier. I mean, this is a stupendous achievement because a plane that had never been tried on an aircraft carrier before was landed by this test pilot. The club of those two, bottom two, the club of solo circumnavigators in the world is less than the number of people who've gone into outer space and climbed Mount Everest. Okay? And two of them belong to the Indian Navy. And yet these four people we don't know about, whereas we'll recognize any cricketer. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a city by the sea. But if you looked at transportation here, which is by road and rail and not by sail, if you looked at sports here, which is cricket, not sailing, people here go to the beach, as one admiral said, not to dip their waters in the sea, but to eat bhel puri. Okay? And above all, our concept of heroes is not maritime, but those from Tinseltown or Bollywood or cricket or whatever. I have no disrespect for those people, but we are essentially forgetting the maritime character of this city. And this is something, considering that we have grown and the maritimity is what defines the city, I thought I will talk to you about one maritime entity that is so distinctively of Mumbai. Of course, the Indian Navy goes beyond Mumbai. It is much more than that. It is the Indian Navy, but it had its birth and everything here. And I want to argue in front of you today that as a project, the Indian Navy itself is a grand project over the last 70 years, and let's see what it has done. Of course, what are the considerations that make up for a navy? Everything else. I'll not labor too much on these. All of it, you know, geography, history. I mean, if you didn't have sea next to you, you might not have needed a navy. As simple as that. Economics, purse, budget, all of that determines what the navy does, what it can do. But, and remember history. Please remember, Indians had seafaring in their tradition long before the Europeans even learned the S of sailing. We were sailing the oceans long before the Europeans knew anything about sailing. But somewhere we forgot about that art, and that is what led to colonialism. But let's not linger too much on history. Let's look at what has happened in recent times. What have I done? Yes, because we have a strange habit in our country of seeing the map upwards and thinking north is where it is oriented towards. But the earth is round, right? So you will see now how the sea matters to us. This is how much the sea matters to us. We are almost like an island nation, and look at our very, very important position in the Indian Ocean. We are the only country after whom an ocean is named, ladies and gentlemen. The only country after whom an ocean is named, because we are central to that ocean. So what is it that we do in the Indian Navy? All of these, not just defend the coast. We have a general feeling that forces do this, particularly of the Indian Navy. And look at the other points. I'm talking about nation building, economy, ecology. If the PMI were to be kind enough to give me another invite, I can spend a whole day talking to you about the economy itself. You want to be a $5 trillion economy, the Indian Navy has to play a big, big role in that, because all your economy, all your trade happens on the sea. Sir, can we have questions later, or you want this one? Right. No. So, we contribute to safe seas too. In what way? I'll tell you. One more Kaun Banega Crorepati question. Can you take a guess? Where is this India Bay? Fantastic. Whoever gave that question, fantastic. It's in Antarctica. And why it is in Antarctica? This is very close to Dakshin Gangotri. And this survey, while it was done on a Russian ship, it was done by Indian Navy hydrographers. But that's not important. Important point is our maritime interests these days are all over the world. We say in the Navy that your maritime neighbor could be Argentina. It could be East Africa. Whereas in land, your neighbor may be Nepal or Bangladesh. So wherever the seas connect, and tomorrow if your interests are there, you go to defend your interests. So if there is an India Bay in Antarctica, then very much you would have interest there at some point of time. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how the seas around us look. Each dot is a fishing vessel or a sailing vessel or a ship in this. This is how complicated the seas are around. If you were to take a small ride in a fishing boat, just go out for 5-10 miles, you will think that the Marine Drive is less crowded. No. But please do go out and know the seas around us. So what our job in the Navy is, unlike the Army or the Air Force, with no disrespect to them, we are soldiers, we are cops, safe seas. There is no police out at sea. The policing job is done by the navies. There is no one for disaster relief. That is done by the Navy. And a whole lot of diplomacy is done by the Navy too. So what has the Indian Navy done in 70 years? We were less than half a dozen sloops. Sloops are small, medium-sized ships. From there, we have become amongst the largest navies in the world. We operate in all three dimensions. That means in air, on surface, and subsurface. We have a fantastic, formidable surface force. We have more than 50 years. 2 years ago, we had the golden jubilee of operating submarines. We are amongst the most proficient in aviation in this region. That is flying at sea as an art. And above all, ladies and gentlemen, as project management people, please know that the Indian Navy is pioneer in Make in India. We build ships here in India, designed by the Indian Naval Bureau, built in Indian shipyards. The Tata Indica, India's first indigenous car, was built in 1997. That is the year the Indian Navy had built its 75th ship. Okay? So we have been pioneers, and what that means in terms of encouragement for small and medium industries, for your entire ecosystem, for design issues, for economy, you only can take a call. So we have seen massive all-round growth. And therefore, we have become what is called a blue water navy. That is a navy that ventures into blue waters and that provides net security, not just to our country, but to several other countries in the region. And this is despite lots of restraints and constraints. Remember, during partition, many of our assets were in Karachi. We were the most affected by it. And most important, the British had a good and big Indian Army and Indian Air Force to fight the World War II. But they always kept the Indian Navy as a very small, the Royal Indian Navy as a small force. It did very well in World War II, but it was strategic desire. The Angrez didn't want, they knew that after independence, the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force will stay in India. But they knew that any navy can come across the globe and come there. And they didn't want a future Indian Navy to be very powerful. So they kept the Indian Navy very nascent. So we were the most affected by that. And then a whole lot of things, funding during Chinese war and all that, we got less than 4%, 3% of the defense budget. Understandable, but all of these and low maritime awareness. The country which had been colonized from the seas, unfortunately had very little awareness about the problems and issues at sea. So despite all that, because of certain basic vision, in 1948, our planners said our country must have 3 aircraft carriers. Look at the vision. We don't have 3 aircraft carriers even today. But this was the vision of those people at that time. We have taken best practices. I mean, we have taken from English, from French, from Russians, from Americans. We have drunk greedily at various fountains, but made it all uniquely Indian. Integrated them very beautifully. You go to most Indian built ships, it is a marvel in terms of integration and indigenization. And professionalism, I mean hardcore. I am telling you this because we stay together, we play together, our families are together. Yet professionalism is the leitmotif. That means if you err professionally, the repercussions are very strong. And that makes a lot of difference. It is lack of professionalism is not tolerated. So you're punished instantly, unlike as it might happen in other areas. This is what Admiral Chatterjee, the Navy chief in 1968 said when the British withdrew from Suez. For this, he went against what the then defense minister and foreign minister said. Everyone dismissed and said this man is talking out of his hat. And this is exactly the situation now. You know. So look at that man's vision and look at his ability. So the Navy, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be telling you later how the Navy produced leaders who were great. We talk of Homi Bhabha, we talk of Vikram Sarabhai, we talk of M.S. Swaminathan, and they're all very well known for the vision. Like that, Navy was led by men of vision. Unfortunately, we have not heard of them, but they did marvelous work, and it is because of them that we have come to where we are today. Look at this lovely slide. In 1965, there was a diktat that Indian Navy should not cross the latitude of Porbandar. So you are put in defensive position. Because of that, there was a lot of unfair, uninformed criticism after the war that the Indian Navy didn't do anything. And despite a reduced budget, see how people made the Indian Navy grow about 2.5 times, 3 times in this. Because of Admiral Chatterjee, a whole lot of people. There was huge amount of growth. They didn't sit back. They didn't, say, "Acha, theek hai, our politicians don't want us to do much," because they knew that come the next war, you will need to perform. And that is what happened, as I will show you later. Not many people know, but we were briefly involved in 1947 in the Junagadh operations. We were involved in liberation of Goa, which we sort of commemorate every time in December, the 1965 and 71 war. Pavan, operation in Sri Lanka, Cactus, Maldives, Mafat, Somalia, Vijay and Parakram, Kargil, and thereafter in 2001. And more recently, the Indian Navy has been deployed. Each time we had Pulwama, Balakot, and every time there's been a bit of, fragility in our neighborhood, the Indian Navy has been deployed. But just to take one example, 71 war. Remember, after World War II, there have been only 2 decent navy to navy wars. One was England and Falkland, other is India and Pakistan. Otherwise, the rest all US against Iraq or against Kuwait, there's too much asymmetry to think of it as any sort of war. And the 71 war, the Indian Navy did just about everything. It fought in 2 oceans, it did bombardment, aircraft carrier operations, anti-submarine operations. The Paki submarine was, caught out at Vizag. You've all seen that Ghazi attack. A lot of it is fiction, but you get the drift. Amphibious operations, special operations. And do remember that when you talk of 90,000 prisoners of war, how did you have 90,000 prisoners of war? Yes, they surrendered. But the reason was they normally were planning to flee from the sea. It is because the Indian Navy had blockaded and choked and closed the sea exit that you had 90,000 prisoners. Please remember that. So that decisive outcome was what happened there. Marvelous example of innovation. This was the boats that attacked Karachi and set it ablaze. The Russians used these for coastal defense. We bought them and said, look, let us innovate. And these ships were towed by big ships. Nobody had expected. The Russian Navy had not expected using these ships like that. These ships were towed in the dead of night in absolute radio silence, very close to Karachi. Then they were unleashed and they all went and rained their missiles on Karachi. One of the earliest instances in history of missile warfare and very successful attack. This is what we did in 71, a marvelous example of innovation. That gentleman in white, not many people know that in 71 war, yes, army was there, air force was there, great people, Ahluwalia, General Sagat. But that gentleman in white, the CNC East Admiral Krishnan, the supposed little bit of hero in Ghazi attack, who lures the submarine to its doom in Vizag. Remember, the same gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, he is a DSC, Distinguished Service Cross in World War II, where he overcame an Iranian captain in an open gun battle, gun shoot, a pistol shoot. He is the hero of 61 war when he commanded the Delhi and bombarded Diu. And in 71, he was sitting there as CNC East and did your most successful operation. Do we remember this man? If I talk of Admiral Krishnan today, it will be a blank. None of us would know these great heroes. But he was a sort of guy. We need to be writing books about them. Move from war to what is called low-intensity maritime operations, the sort of small, dirty, but continuous battles that happen. Just small example, counter-piracy. We've been having piracy of Somalia. I was in Kenya for 3.5 years, got first-hand view of what the whole business is all about. The Indian Navy has had the maximum amount of pirate attacks foiled. At one point, we had the highest number of prisoners, more than 120 prisoners, Somali prisoners in our jails who had been captured. And we have escorted more than 4,000 ships. These are not Indian ships alone. These are all international ships. So this is how we contribute to global safety and safe seas. And all of this is important because 90% of world's trade flows on the oceans. 90% of the world's trade. So unless you have safe seas, you will not have anything further in terms of economy. And a small thing like piracy threatened to affect that. Operation Pavan, 87 to 90, 3 years, longest thing. Not many people know. Unfortunately, a bit of fault of ours, we haven't written books on this. But we did just about everything. Small ships, set up headquarters. I was based, I was involved in the earlier days of Pavan in Colombo. But small ships were deployed in the east. Kankesanturai, in Trincomalee. We captured Kittu. We did operations that got us our second Mahavir Chakra for Arvind Singh. We did complete blockade there. We did a huge amount of operations there. And it continued for 3 years. So again, for those who are military historians, you will find a gold mine in this. Look at some of the images of tanks being loaded, of the amphibious ships being used on that. So we did not recognize. In India, we were typically not much concerned, but the time carried this picture. 1st April 1989, and it's not an All Fools Day picture. Okay, so look at what not only it thinks you are going to be the next military power, but what is the currency of military power? A ship built in India. Okay, this is what it had put on its cover. Diplomatically, I don't know how many of you followed today. Please, when you see any joint statements by Indian Prime Minister with Donald Trump, maritime security figures as one of the top areas. When he speaks to Boris Johnson, maritime issues are there. I took part in something called the International Fleet Review. I was involved in the core committee there in 2016. And in 2015, when Prime Minister Modi went, David Cameron in UK addressing and saying, Britain will be happy to participate and we will be sending 2 ships to the Indian Fleet Review in Visakhapatnam. Look at how the tide of history had turned. 400, 500 years ago, these guys had colonized us. Today they are saying, "Hum khush hai aapke dawat mein aayenge." You know, so that is the important difference, and that is the sort of currency of power that you should be. You know, so to each, WIOR stands for West Indian Ocean Region, EA for East Africa, HOA for Horn of Africa. IONS, Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, a construct that the Indian Navy was pioneer in. 25 nations or 23 nations are a part of that, and something called Milan, which is going to happen next month in Visakhapatnam, where more than 30-40 navies are coming together to Visakhapatnam for exercising with the Indian Navy, right? So it tells you कि आप आजकल invitation देते हो जब लोग आते हैं, that means your stature globally has increased so much. Everyone wants to exercise with you, everyone wants to be with you. I just picked up a random Twitter feed. This is how Indian Navy ships on any given day at any given time are likely to be. I mean, you can change the positions on globe here and there, but it tells you a bit about how we are spread out all over, not just in Indian Ocean, but maybe sometimes beyond. And that is why you have books like this written by IFS officers now. You know, they're looking at maritime dimensions. Sorry, diplomatic dimensions to maritime issues, you know, which would never have figured in security literature even a couple of decades ago. What are the other ways? Humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Massive, huge amount we have done. We did before also, but it began in December 2004 with tsunami. What did we do? We were affected, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, 2004 tsunami, all of us were affected. Indian Navy, India was affected, particularly Andamans and our east coast. Yet, within 36 hours, we were able to send 32 ships with 10,000 tons of relief material. And we were first to respond at home as well as to Indonesia, Sri Lanka and Maldives. That is how we went to rush out and give Satrada. 5th of December 2017, when all of you were warned of a big gale storm hitting Bombay and told to stay indoors, that is the day Indian Navy was out. Again, along with Coast Guard, more than 30 ships, aircraft. This is how we were spread out. Even though it was the Navy Day, Navy Week, Navy Day is 4th December. I'm giving an example of both the global and local and what we do only in terms of humanitarian assistance and disaster. You all know about the Kerala floods. Look at the way people have been taken up and look at that lovely thing said there. Thanks on the rooftop of a house because people were evacuated. Please remember, flying helicopters over a rooftop of the house, no matter what you see in Hollywood, is not the easiest thing. It is amongst the most difficult issues and it needs great skill to do it. It needs the highest amount of skill to do it. Some more pictures. From Mumbai to Mozambique. Okay. Just in the last 2 years alone, what we have done with foreign countries in our neighborhood. Just in the last 2 years alone. Big, small, evacuating Indians, evacuating others, all of these. This is a very interesting case. Maldives, Operation Neer. Maldives had run out of water. They had no water, and that means the country comes to a halt. Tourism, ye, wo, kuch nahi. What did we do? First, immediately, you deployed ships. One small ship takes 35 tons of water. Then another big ship takes 800 tons of water. Right? Immediately responded. Then we provided relief. The ships, RO plants were used to generate and give water to Maldives. Thereafter, the engineers and the maintainers from ships went out and rectified the Maldivian plant. So you see, because of the huge amount of organic resources, because of huge amount of versatility, a whole range of problems could be resolved. And this is geography. Now, any amount that anybody else may be interested in Maldives, the fact that we are close by and able to respond tells you a lot about what and how we can bring to bear where countries' relations are concerned. These are our scientific research vessels. The one on top, Sagar Dhwani, acoustic research. The one below called Darshak for hydrographic research. And hydrographic research, ladies and gentlemen, we are amongst the top countries in the world. Hydrographic research is the same thing as surveying, what we do on Google Map information. Surveying formerly was with the Indian Army. Now a lot of that has gone away, but hydrography at seas is still with the Indian Navy, and we are amongst global leaders there. We do a lot of hydrography for various other people. This is the Indian Navy chief presenting a chart of the port of Tanga to the Tanzanian Prime Minister. This has a very interesting side story, which I might be able to tell you about during the Q&A session if you're interested. And all of this has happened because we've had some visionary leaders. You know, you must have read that Gurcharan Das book, India Grows at Night. So, Indian Navy virtually has grown at night without many people being bothered, funding nahi, ye nahi, because of certain visionary leaders. All these are marvelous people. I can keep telling you, I wish I'm planning to write a book on some of these people. Hopefully, it should be possible. But look at these who are not chiefs. Each one of them interesting. Admiral Krishnan, left corner, I've told you. Captain Malla, who went down in the Kukri, set a big example. Below that, Admiral Avati, many of you must have heard of him, that flamboyant hero who was the father of maritime sailing, ocean sailing, the Tarini people who went out. He's the man who did huge amount for sailing. The man in between cutting the cake, Admiral Mickey Roy, the father of India's nuclear submarine project. I mean, big thinker. He was a classmate of Raja Ramanna, and that is how they developed this plan together. You know, Admiral Raja Menon, one of India's earliest thinkers on security line. But the top right is an interesting person. Aragyaswamy Paul Raj. All of you use smartphones, you have admitted in the previous sessions, right? Now, smartphones depend on something called a MIMO, multiple input, multiple output technology. Look, MIMO's founder, inventor was this gentleman, Paul Raj. And Paul Raj is an ex-Navy officer. And much of that happened because he was indigenously researching for a sonar for the Indian Navy, because the Western sonars didn't operate very well in Indian Ocean. So it is the Indian Navy's background in science and technology, and then he went, Professor Indireshan of IIT sent him, he went to Stanford, he did lots of research there. He is the winner of what are called the Nobels in the field of IT, both Marconi and Graham Bell. It's an ex-Indian Navy officer. So what I'm trying to tell you is of the huge human resources we've built. Top left corner, Tejinder Pal Singh Toor, India's shot put champion. Right, Onkar Singh, the winner of maximum medals in Commonwealth Games in shooting. My boy, very proud to say that he was on my ship when he started his shooting career. You know, down below, Muhammad Anas, India's 400 meters champion. Left corner, the 6 girls of Tarini who sailed around the world. So what happens? Today's Navy operates in a far more complex world, network, IT enabled, much more joint operations with Army, Air Force, lot more civilian outreach, ladies and gentlemen. 20, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have had a Navy officer come and talk like this at the PMI conclave. We were a silent service. We prefer to be silent, but we are opening up a little now, and much more greater interaction with foreign agencies. These are examples of our made in India ships. Sleek, sexy, beautiful. The one on left is the Delhi class. The one on right is Kolkata class. And again, when we built ships earlier, they were great, but they were not absolutely compatible in the world class. Now the sort of ships that we build are comparable to any world class, tonnage to tonnage, weapon to weapon, ratio to ratio, size to size, any parameter that you use, any parameters that you use. So the Make in India products are fantastic. And what are we doing next? On the left, we are building an aircraft carrier in India, being built in Kochi shipyard. Another 2 years, 2022, it's slated to be commissioned. And on the right is a submarine that we have built in India, in the Mazgaon dock, in this very city of Mumbai, commissioned last, Apart from that, we have huge achievements in all these areas. I told you, hydrography, training, maritime history. We are the ones in front. We started something called Maritime History Society, special operations, diving, and above all, music. The Navy Band is something that I guess all of you are aware. And Navy Band itself performs abroad to lots of kudos. It won lots of, it goes to the Edinburgh Festival, it goes to a lot of international music and band festivals. Now, most importantly, as this document, Non-Alignment 2.0, said a few years ago, great power is defined by its ability to produce knowledge. And this is what we have been doing in the last couple of decades, producing knowledge, indigenous documents. Both these documents are available openly on the net. You can see it, India's maritime security strategy and maritime doctrine, which has won high praise abroad, It has won high praise abroad from informed commentators. And that is the interesting thing. You could do a lot of things earlier, but you still borrowed the terminology from West. Now we are producing knowledge independently in the Indian Navy, a significant development of the last 2 decades. And doing a lot of other things too, contributing to the society, contributing to, as a community we are very involved, because then you have scale. If you decide, okay, we'll use LED across the scale, because you decide to use, a lot of people believe that cantonments have become automatically green. That Sridevi says in Mr. India, no, bacche seedhe hi bade kyun nahi ho jate hain? Like that, many people believe that cantonments are given naturally green to the Faujis. No, there's a lot of hard work that goes into keeping it clean, green, worthy, serene. Lots of it. You got to dirty your dangris, as they say. That is why this is how the naval dockyard looks today. Fantastic heritage building on the left. We can't go away from our basic duty of fighting. So guns and propellers certainly. But military sites can become conservation areas. This is the area just behind the Reserve Bank of India. So outside Mumbai, you will not find a single tree outside that wall. You come behind this wall, you will see a green oasis. For all of you who are very much into project, this is fantastic recent development. Just few months ago, we inaugurated what is called the aircraft carrier dry dock, built in collaboration with HCC, which used 8,000, a fantastic project of the Indian Navy, 8,000 metric ton steel, equivalent in weight to Eiffel Tower, 1.5 times the concrete used in Sea Link, and it can accommodate an aircraft carrier dock. It is huge. It is a stupendous engineering achievement, and it is very much based in this very city of Mumbai. So what is the Indian Navy today? Bigger, busier, better than what we were when we began. And this has been because of a certain consistency. We began with some template. We said to ourselves this template, 48 plan paper, still a fantastic template. We've stuck to that trajectory. We've handled transformation. We have handled all the challenges and constraints that were thrown to us. There have been concerns. Should we have this? Should we not have this? The nature of politics is changing. People are changing. And we have responded, remedied, and resolved to make things better. So, with 10 minutes to go, I would like to submit to all of you that Indian Navy at 70. Remember, we became Indian Navy on 26 Jan 1950. So, we are 70 years as Indian Navy now. It's a spectacular success story. It is a principal element of India's resurgence. When you talk of India as a great power or a to be great power, you talk of space, you talk of nuclear, you talk of military, you talk of economy, you talk of cyber, you talk of knowledge. One of the principal elements of India's resurgence is Indian Navy. And that is why Indian Navy is mentioned in all nation-to-nation agreements. Our maritime canvas, the other elements of our maritime canvas are still coming up, but Indian Navy in the maritime field is doing the work that Virat Kohli or Sachin Tendulkar do. It's doing the heavy lifting as far as the maritime world is concerned, and it has overcome the problems of past to scale much bigger heights. But it doesn't just depend on us alone. Ladies and gentlemen, it depends on all of you. We have to, in our country, if you want to become a great maritime power, we must have maritime thing in our blood. The sea must flow in our veins. We are a peninsular nation. We have the seas all around us. So we must have the desire for the sea. So next time when you go out, please try and have this desire for the sea. Don't just stick to, being on the beach. Let the stars that you reach not just be pebbles on the beach. Okay? So I hope I have persuaded you that we are a service that dares and cares in equal measure. This is the Indian naval ship Airavat, which was diverted just a few days ago when Madagascar had its floods. We were the first country to respond. Within a week of Madagascar's flood, Airavat was there, which resulted in their president and prime minister thanking the Indian prime minister for the help that we rendered. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your very patient hearing. I had to go at express speed, more at the speed of an aircraft than that of a ship, but I'll be very happy to take on some questions that you might have. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, certainly.
Yeah, ladies. Okay, so my question is that recently we have seen a lot of cyclones which are there coming up in Indian Ocean, and what threat does it pose to Navy from a preparedness perspective?
Okay. Can I take 2 or 3 questions together, so maybe I'll be able to bunch them in? Yes, sir.
On the hydrographic front, I came across some articles saying that we have explored more of space and less of the surface of the sea. So as a Navy man, can you just tell us more about the hydrographic surveying?
I have 2 questions. One is about the way we have the PMI, like, the project management in the IT industry, or, Prince 2. What is there for Navy or Army? That is one of the curiosity which I have. Because you all work so nice, the projects are on time, and they are, up to the mark. So I'm really interested to know on that. The second point is, we have such a visionary people in Army, Navy, So why these people, what do they do after their retirement? Why are we not bringing them to the mainstream, we need people to build our nation. And these people we are not bringing them into our mainstream. And we want development to happen in India. And I think if these people come as a visionary, I'm telling you, that whatever the 5 trillion mark which is there, will be crossing beyond that.
Thank you. Sir, I'll take this bunch first. Cyclones, cyclones don't affect the Navy. I mean, we're meant to go and operate in cyclones, so that's not an issue. But you have a bigger point. It does affect lots of infrastructure. You see, one problem that the Indian Ocean region has is natural phenomena occur everywhere, but our capacity to handle the after effects of that natural phenomena is much lesser than, say, in the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean countries, though I must say that we have improved huge way there. So Indian Navy is the first responder. So what happens when cyclone comes and everyone is inside, we are outside. Okay, so we have to be there. So that of course exerts its own problem. Do we have smashed furniture, smashed things, smashed wires, smashed antennas? Yes, we have. It's always there. I can show you lots of photographs. There have been times when I have been up on the bridge and come down to my room and everything is smashed there. You know, then the Hood, October 14, we had a cyclone. Our house was up the hill. We couldn't move from one room to another because everything had got smashed. That is the time when I had just handed over my ship, but other people were fighting that cyclone. So what the Indian Navy does is largely go and provide relief, rehabilitation, rescue. We are not ourselves affected, but our infrastructure can be affected, any shore infrastructure. The ships are not much. In fact, the cardinal rule in a cyclone is the ships must head out into the sea, because while you will toss and turn, you will not get damaged if you are in harbor where you will bang. So certainly it has an impact on infrastructure. We try to minimize that by taking precautions, but otherwise we are geared towards civilian people. Your second point, yes sir, that is right, but that's right simply because mankind has put much more into exploration of space than the oceans. You all would have seen that little WhatsApp thing of how mysterious and deep our oceans are. So hydrography ships also, they don't really go too much into acoustic research because they're meant for mapping. So you just get enough information that you need for mapping and safe navigation. So we wish we were to do much more. But at the moment, again, the Indian Navy is the only, Indian Ocean entity, South Africa, little, which has great hydrographic resources. So we do, our hydrographic ships are out almost 200, 300 days a year. They do a lot of data gathering. We share it with our partners. We do the mapping and surveying for our friendly nations so that in UN they can produce their claims. They can, you see, after all, like in land, ye mera ilaka hai, ye tumhara ilaka hai, we have to do that out on sea, and we help people do that, and we are into it. But on the whole, mankind has not given adequate resources to research the oceans as much as it has on in terms of space. Ma'am, your questions. 2, project management. One, of course, a lot of management is taught to you intrinsically as a part of leadership. You're thrown as a young child or young man of 20, you're faced with situations from the first day you're an officer. Part of that is leadership, part of that is project. You go and do it. You're thrown into the deep end and you do it. But this is not to ignore the very formal aspects of project management. All of us in the armed forces have management institutes. The army, we have in Bombay our management institute in Malad, and the forces together have in Secunderabad, and these institutions run short and long courses for our people. Specific to projects, we also have something called the works management, where a whole lot of project management is formally taught. So one thing we try and do is stay up to date with developments with field, whether it's IT, projects, everything else, so that we do it. What about people who retire? Look, I mean, there's an old saying that generals fade away and tend to their roses. It was not so. You're very right. This is precious human resource, but it is for society to, by and large, recognize and take. That is why one of my efforts is to tell you about the Navy, tell you about these people, to write about these people, so that when a gentleman goes out, people know what he is. People know that he did something incredible, and we should, forget about recognizing him, but use his talent. It doesn't happen often, unfortunately, and you're right. I wish that situation could be remedied or rectified.
Yes, sir. My question is about challenges by Chinese Navy, because they are encroaching Indian oceans through Sri Lanka or through other countries. So, is our Navy prepared to fight Chinese Navy?
I'll come. I'll take a bunch of three.
I think this would be the last question, please. In the
My-
interest of time, this would be the last question.
Yeah,
So I would like to ask one question.
I believe that, I wanted to add that India is, yes, sir.
You guys decide. I don't take a call on this.
Sir, I want to ask one question. Considering the climate change that is happening and sea being a desire, as you said, what are the initiatives the Indian Navy is taking to control the climate change? I'm asking this because at one of the conferences I attended, I just heard that the amount of energy or the heat that the oceans are absorbing, it is equivalent to one Hiroshima bomb which had exploded. So, and lot of marine life is going extinct. So, any initiatives from your end to, create an awareness and control the climate change?
Okay, I'll answer these two very widely different questions. Okay, first let me begin with climate change. Look, climate change is meant to be addressed by nations, not by navies. You have all these protocols, CP4, CP, recent convention of parties at Paris and all that. What Indian Navy is doing, I can have a 1-hour talk. Just last week I was at Xavier's talking about Navy's contribution to ecological housekeeping, where we can do scientific research. We can actively monitor Indian ships, normal ships are constantly monitoring every minute, every hour, temperature, pressure, gradient, salinity, all of these, wind, weather, and we're feeding it back. So the IMD gets a huge amount of data from the Indian Navy. We have vessels for scientific research and hydrographic research, as we say. We do a whole lot of community efforts from our side, from greening, cleaning, LED, low this one. Most important, we are into mitigation. Remember, consequence of ocean rising, refugees, islands disappearing, rough seas. The first responders to any crisis or disaster will be us. Pollution control, the Navy and the Coast Guard are in the forefront. So we are like the policing and other agencies, mitigating agencies, crisis responders. Climate change needs to be addressed not by the navies. You are right, very right. I can see in 30 years how the sea's nature has changed. Earlier on Narli Purnima day, the oceans would be clear actually. The fishermen, now it's no longer. Your monsoons are longer, patterns are changing, lots of things are happening. I can discuss that with you for huge amount of time. Unfortunately, that is an international effort, but we are the first to respond in case of any problems. And as an institution, we are doing a lot of measures at ground level. Sir, China, please remember again, this is national. China is growing at an incredible pace. It has a $10 trillion economy or a $2 trillion. It has a $250 billion defense budget. We have about $50-60 billion difference, 5 times everywhere. They are producing 40 ships, 50 ships in a year. We are producing 10 ships. There is a massive all-round effort there by China. So you are right. They are in Indian Ocean, but oceans are free. Oceans are common to everyone. But this doesn't mean that Indian ships don't go to South China Sea or anywhere in the world or wherever we have, because all this is a part of what you call as defending your interests, going for exercises, being there together. But ultimately, when you say, are we ready to face China, that's again a question at the national level, not at Navy level. In terms of Navy, our chief has said very clearly, and I am going only by what he has said to everyone during the Navy Day message, that as far as the Indian Ocean is concerned, remember the geography is still with you. Distances in terms of geography still favors you. And war is not about crunching numbers. It's not about, if it was so, India would have produced the best cricket team and Australia with very little population would not have produced the best cricket team. But it's not about crunching numbers, it's about a lot of things. For example, I'll give a small example. We have learned flying at sea for last 60 years. We have been flying since 1961 or much before that. What happens now? China has produced 2 aircraft carriers. Industrially you can do that, 3rd you can do. But you can't teach the art of flying at sea. That takes a huge amount of time. So if you are professional, if you are focused on your things, if you want to do good with what you have, I have not been able to talk of a lot of things, cosmopolitanism, ethos, learning in English, English language comfort. The Indian Navy has much greater English language comfort. So all of these in some way add up to the basket of things that makes the Indian Navy what it is, and that is respected. So I don't think you need to look clear just in terms of numbers. I think the Indian Navy has, enough things to be proud of and enough things to be.
Thank you. Thank you, Commodore Sri Krishna.
Thanks a lot. I'll be staying during lunch and a little thereafter, so I'll be very happy to take on other questions or anything that you may have on the sidelines. I'll give my card also to a few of you who might want it in case you want to know more later. Thanks a lot for having me here. Pleasure being here.
Thank you. I think by the end of this session, I think we've all learned a whole lot more about the Indian Navy achievements. And I think we all feel an increased sense of pride now. So thank you so much. I'd request Mr. Manish Dedia, VP of Volunteers and our Secretary of the PMI Mumbai chapter, to kindly.